actually couldn't speak until I was 5 years old. I had a speech impediment, so I would leave off the beginning and end off of words, and nobody could understand what I was saying. My dad couldn't, my grandma couldn't, my siblings, no one. And they actually were gonna put me in special education classes because I couldn't talk. They thought that I didn't know anything. I was able to go through years of speech therapy, and then I was able to go to Toastmasters, me and my sister, and that's how I was able to learn to pitch and go to these different corporations and different sponsors to receive the funds and find different companies that share the same idea that I have for the future of kids learning financial literacy.
What's going on, millionaires? It's your guy Kai Speaks back for another episode of the $1 Million Mind podcast. I am just thoroughly impressed with the next guest we're about to have today. We have a young man who is only 14 years old. 14 still, right?
Yes.
14 from the time that I, was learning about him, and I'm like in shock because I remember when I was 14 years old, knowing that certain things didn't sit right with me as far as like how people deal with money and finances, and just knowing that we were being kept certain information and just wondering why we wouldn't learn about these things in school. But I never took it that next step, to kind of like investigate or delve into it, further educate myself, further educate my family and friends, right? But this young man, Caden, is doing all the things that I wish I would have done when I was his age. And, he now is not only changing the blueprint for the people who come after him, but he's going to the schools and teaching his peers and teaching other students about financial literacy. And man, it is like truly a blessing to see our youth engaging in this type of energy, engaging in this type of activity, and being able to set the foundation for what we expect of our schools moving forward. So Caden, I just want to say I appreciate you for not only taking time out of your Saturday, but I appreciate all the work that you're doing in the community to just educate your friends, educate your peers, and educate so many other students in the communities of Georgia and beyond on financial literacy. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. And it's my pleasure being able to help out in the community because God gave me this and I just have to make sure that I use it.
Man, shout out to you for acknowledging God, because God definitely gave you a blessing. He gave you, parents that are, kind of powering your mission, gave you the vision to be able to take it, and run with it. So, man, I appreciate you again for joining us. So I guess start by telling us a little bit about the beginning, what the beginning looked like for you. Where did the curiosity, ignite in your spirit or ignite in your soul to like want to get into like finance and financial literacy and wanting to help others?
Well, I would always go to business meetings with my dad. And at that time, I would always hear people talking about financial literacy, but I didn't know what financial literacy was. So I decided that I would go off and learn about it and do research so that I could teach it to kids in ways that they could understand, because I learned how important financial literacy was and that it needed to be taught to kids worldwide because it pretty much dictates our future.
So it was really helpful that your dad would bring you to those business meetings, huh?
Yes.
Do you think that other kids or, it will be beneficial for other kids to be involved in like their parents' lives into that aspect as well?
I would definitely say so. Just parents making sure to expose their kids to different things, because that's one thing my parents always did. They'll even bring us to like their friends. If they have a job, they'll bring them to a chiropractor, a doctor. So they just expose us to different things and different opportunities that we can have.
Have you ever heard the term stay out of grown folks' business?
Yes.
You have? To what extent?
I'm not exactly sure what extent, I would say.
Okay. And the reason why I asked that is because I feel like when I heard that term, it was like a way for, me to not be involved in certain conversations that like my parents or like family members will be having. But in hindsight, I felt like they were necessary information, necessary information. So the reason why I asked is because it sounded like you were very much involved in the conversations that we should be having, in the household, like about, around credit, around savings, around investments and assets and all this stuff, but I felt like, the life where I grew up, no one was having these types of conversations. So, you know, I get you probably heard that expression before, but you definitely are living a different life than most kids, you know, your age are living, especially in the Black community. So again, shout out to your household, shout out to your parents and your family for just encouraging you and bringing you into those conversations. Caden, I have, like, when I've been doing some research, I was looking at some numbers, and it's super relevant to what you're doing, mainly in like the widespread of, you know, financial instability, especially like the information that we're being taught in schools. And when I'm looking at some of the numbers here, especially when it comes to the schools, only 23 U.S. states, I don't know if you knew this, only 23 U.S. states require personal finance as a part of their curriculum nowadays. And most of these are high schools. And 35 states receive grades of C, D, or F for their financial literacy efforts, even if they're not required, right? So when you hear those numbers, right, what do you think that means, or what story does that tell for you? What pictures does that paint?
I would say that financial literacy isn't being properly taught, and then it needs to be taught in a better way, which is why I create my curriculum, so it can teach kids all the necessary things about financial literacy. It teaches them how to earn, save, about insurance, taxes, so it gets more in depth the more they go on.
I like that. And it definitely, to me, tells the same story, right? Like, it's not being taught, and it's not being taught properly, or, you know, again, using scenarios, using language that may not be fully understood to the students that are being taught it. So how the curriculum that you started, right?
Yes.
How does it make it a little bit more digestible or easier for, you know, the students that you work with?
We do it in a fun and interactive way, because that's how I found how other kids learn. And they learn better when they're able to learn it from another kid and in another kid's words. So this is how I've been teaching kids about it, doing fun activities, and then they're able to grasp it when they see it's something interactive that they can do hands-on.
Nice.
And I actually sat in on a meeting at the governor's office where they were passing the law that kids must learn about financial literacy in Georgia before they graduate high school.
So how did that, I don't know if you can share this, right? But if you can, how did that meeting go? Did you experience like any like pushback? Were there people in the room that felt like it shouldn't be required, or was this pretty much a unanimous decision at this point?
It was pretty much a unanimous decision. They felt that it was necessary at that point, and they were just getting other people who were doing things around financial literacy and getting their opinion on it.
Nice. What would you say is your favorite activity that you do with your students around financial literacy?
I would say just my financial bus, because we're able to do so many cool things on there. For example, there's a section where they're able to learn how to have a grocery list. So they learn how to manage their money and how to have a family budget. So they know what their parents do when they go to the store, because a lot of times they're just picking stuff off the shelves and throwing it in the cart, just saying that they want it, but they don't actually look at the things that they might need. And they just know that they want it, and that's all they care about. Man,
that's a fact. I mean, my son is only 6 months, so he don't really know the difference, but he does see the colors, and all he does is, you know, reach at different stuff. So I can only imagine how I was as a kid, you know, just not really taking that into account. Yes. Knowing what you know now, being that you've been studying this for years, as like, how can parents who are watching this episode, right, how can they maybe start to introduce their kids to better financial practices that, you know, they might not be able to get to your bus. They may not be able to, you know, come down to your next talk. How would they be able to introduce finances to their kids in a way that makes sense for the kids and is digestible?
They should just involve their kids in different situations that is going on in their household, whether it's money issues that they may be having, just showing them what they do when they go to the grocery store. One thing my dad always did is that whenever he went to the bank, even if it was his check, he would always let me or my siblings deposit it. So that we were able to learn how to deposit a check at our early age, and now we're depositing our own checks.
You just, hey, look, that's gold, man. You're depositing your own checks. That's what's up. The bus, I'm assuming the bus walk me through the bus. Like, if I'm watching this for the first time, help me picture what the bus looks like from the outside to the inside. Give us a little virtual tour of the bus.
So when we first get on the bus, there's a mock bank there where they're able to learn how to deposit and withdraw their money. So they're able to learn how to write a check to their parents as well. And they put a certain amount of money that they would give to their parents. Then we move on to the grocery store where they're able to learn how to have a family budget, and they learn the difference between their needs and their wants. And then with their money left over from the bank in the grocery store, they go over to the stock exchange where they're able to learn how to invest in stocks and learn how the stock market works. And the funny thing about the bus is that I had the idea for the bus when I was around 10 or 11, and I would keep calling my dad bus driver over and over. And at that time, he was so confused why I kept calling him bus driver. I even edited a picture of a bus driver with his face on it, and he was just so confused. But after a few days, I eventually told him my idea with the bus. And a few days after, we were eating Chinese food, and I got a fortune cookie that read, "You'll be blessed with an investment on 4 wheels." And 2 weeks later, I was able to buy a bus with my own cash. And then I was able to remodel it and go on a TV show on Hulu called Big RV Remix. And I'm still on there. I'm episode 5. So Big Boy from Outkast is on there. Shaq is on there. And I've been able to learn a lot from them because Shaq has been awesome. He's just a super cool guy, super funny. And then Big Boy is someone who always makes sure to give good advice and a cool person to be around overall.
Yeah, man, there's a lot to unpack there. The fortune cookie of kind of like foretelling you getting the bus to 2 weeks. You said 2 weeks later, you end up with the bus and you paid for it cash.
Yes.
Wow. And how old were you at the time when you got the bus?
I was 11.
11. So you've been operating the bus for 3 years now.
Yes.
Nice. As an 11-year-old, what was that feeling like? Being able to make such a huge investment on your own. And was this your first huge investment?
It was my first huge investment, and I knew that it was going to be something that was monumental. And I actually did a capital raise for $50,000 where I went to all these different corporations and I was looking for different corporate sponsors so that they can help fund to remodel the bus so it can be brand new basically. And we were able to find so many awesome partners. We partnered with Cummins. They also gave me a new engine inside of my bus. We did a grant with them. So just partnerships, those have been super key for the bus's success.
Wow, that was going to be my next question too. Like, how did you raise the capital to be able to afford something like this at 11 years old too at that point? I'm sure for you to be able to go to these corporations and to get them to see the vision that you see, there had to be some type of pitch. Where did you learn the skills of crafting a business pitch to get these Fortune 500 companies to invest into you like they have?
Well, the funny thing about it and me pitching is that I actually couldn't speak until I was 5 years old. I had a speech impediment, so I would leave off the beginning and end off of words, and nobody could understand what I was saying. My dad couldn't, my grandma couldn't, my siblings, no one, except my mom. She was the only person that could understand what I was saying, and they actually were gonna put me in special education classes because I couldn't talk. They thought that I didn't know anything, but I was able to prove them wrong, and I was able to go through years of speech therapy and eventually prevail. And then I was able to go to Toastmasters, me and my sister, and we were able to learn how to pitch there. And it just kept going for that. And I was able to do speaking, and that's how I was able to learn to pitch and go to these different corporations and different sponsors to receive the funds and find different companies that share the same idea that I have for the future of kids learning financial literacy.
Shout out to the moms, right? It's always the moms that really knows to our core like that, right?
Yes.
And so when you go to your experience with Toastmasters and all the things you've learned from there, would you give some I feel like even some of our adults need this advice, right? Like, what is the key to giving a successful pitch?
You just have to introduce who you are, what it is you do, and your mission. Those are 3 of the main components that you need to do when giving a pitch so that you can do it. You can have an elevator pitch, but you can do in less than a minute. And a pitch, if you do like a pitch competition or a full-on pitch, that's maybe 4 to 5 minutes.
Is it good to kind of do both? Like to kind of have the elevator pitch and to master that 4 to 5 minute pitch too?
Yes, definitely.
Nice. What do you think it was about your pitch that stuck out to the corporations and businesses that said yes to you?
I would say overall, seeing that I was a kid and doing these things, and seeing a 12-year-old 11-year-old, excuse me, at the time with a bus who was looking to remodel it and be able to teach kids about financial literacy. And I really saw that was a good idea and that they wanted to invest in that.
So let me I want to try to paint the picture for our audience. At the time when you were doing the pitches, meeting with these different organizations, did you already have a bus that needed to be like renovated, or you didn't even have the bus yet at the time?
I did have the bus at the time when I was going to the sponsors.
Okay, gotcha. So you had a bus that was like a traditional school bus, or like still had the seats in it and everything?
Yes.
Nice.
So we had to remove the seats, the racks, everything. And we put an ad up on Facebook saying that you can take the seats, just take them out and you can have them.
So you're just giving away the seats for free.
Yes, but they still had to do the work. So it was a win-win for both.
Nice. I really love the concept, Caden, because it sounds like not only does the bus individually like prepare kids for these different practices, like, checking a balance, writing a check, then going to the grocery store, coming up with a budget, then introducing them to stocks. It also walks them through like a cycle that us as adults that we go through, right? Like having to check your finances, and then preparing. The grocery store is kind of like an analogy. I see it as like just everyday life, like the stuff that you pay for to live, whether it's groceries, whether it's, clothes, whether it's gas, all that other stuff. And then you go into the stocks where now you're teaching them how to invest what you have left over, right? Yes. So you have to pay for your life, you have to live, and then whatever you have in excess, now you're investing in stocks. You mentioned outside of the stocks, but prior to also like insurance. So is that also tied into the bus as well? And at what point are they introduced to insurance, and what kind of insurance?
Well, the insurance is mainly in the curriculum. So in the curriculum, they learn about all different types of it, about house insurance, life insurance, car insurance, and they have to actually get a quote themselves. So they can go to a website and get a quote for either a vehicle or a house. And then they're able to go from there and learn how much a quote might cost. And just for their age, it will be different.
And then I'm assuming they have to then tie that into the budget that they get or whatever are you assigning each kid like a balance in the bank, or how are they coming up with it? Because if I was a kid and I'm on your bus, I'm going to tell the bank I got $5 million. Are you assigning the balance for them?
Well, yes, everyone has a budget.
Okay. What's the budget that you're giving them?
It's $40 that they have to work with.
Ooh, $40. What am I gonna do with $40, Caden? What am I going to do with $40?
Well, at the grocery store, that's where they work with the $40. Okay. And then at the stock exchange, that's when they're able to learn how to do quizzes and learn about money there too. Gotcha.
So that $40 I'm budgeting for the groceries.
Yes.
Okay. And then, so when I'm at the bank, that's not necessarily like for me to check my balance. It's more so for me to just learn about depositing checks and stuff like that.
Correct.
Gotcha. I was about to say, I'm thinking I got $40 to go to the bank, go to the grocery store, invest in some stocks, and then try to get some life insurance. I don't know if I could do that with $40.
Yeah, I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, I don't think that's possible. I don't even think that was ever possible. So what's your favorite type of insurance that you like talk about, or what are some of the favorite type of insurance that your students like to learn about?
It just depends on the group and their style of learning. So they just like to learn about all different types of insurances. And one thing that they're able to learn from the most is my type of insurance is that I have to pay for my bus. So a kid still has insurance to pay for, which I have my bus, so I have to pay for that monthly. And then they're able to understand it, seeing what I'm doing.
Have you, how familiar would you say you are with life insurance?
I would say I'm pretty familiar with it.
What about life insurance do you see valuable for an everyday person that doesn't currently have life insurance and maybe not even familiar with life insurance?
I would say it's something that's definitely necessary that they should do as soon as possible.
Why as soon as possible?
because it's something that'll definitely help set you up for your future, because a lot of times people just think it's for after you pass away and it's just for your family, but it's called life insurance for a reason. So you can use it in your normal day life. You can pay back into it if you want to, or you can take some out if there's a project that you would like to do with it.
That part. I want to touch on that a little bit more too, Caden, because that's a part that I'm myself as a 29-year-old man just now figuring out myself. I used to be one of those people that would think life insurance was not for the life benefit, but for the death benefit. And this is kind of relevant to what I mentioned earlier about not having the right conversations. Funny thing is, I had just found out maybe like 3 months ago that my dad used life insurance to like fund his trip to come down for my son's baby shower, right?
Oh.
And I'm having this conversation with him. And I'm like, Dad, all these conversations you heard me have on the podcast about life insurance, we've had a lot of different people here talk about life insurance. You ain't not once think to tell me that you have life insurance and you taking advantage of the life benefit. And he was like, no, I didn't think about it. And so I say all that to say this. I did not know that you could actually use the money to borrow, like you can borrow against your life insurance policy. And the importance of what you said is to pay it back. Just like you would, take out a car note, instead of paying $400 for a car note, you maybe, borrow $40,000 to buy yourself a car and then just pay that back into your life insurance policy. Is that kind of similar to like how you saying you would use it?
Yes.
Okay.
And with life insurance, you don't have to pay it back, but if you would like to get the benefit still, you could pay it back.
Right. It's beneficial if you want the full benefit, right?
Yes.
Gotcha. Is there a certain type of life insurance that you have to take advantage of that life benefit?
Not one that I could give right offhand.
Okay. No worries. I'm sure that it may or may not be. But I still think that's very interesting that you know about this at 14 years old, and I'm just figuring out stuff like this in the last 6 months, right? Like, no joke. This is literally a journey that I've been taking 6 months ago. And so for you being 14 years old, how do you fathom all of this information? How do you not get information overload? How do you not get analysis paralysis from all the information that's out there? And how do you take it step by step to implement it into your life?
Well, one thing I always say is that I get rid of the things that are unnecessary. So one time when I was around 9, I decided that I wanted to forget how to tie my shoe so I could focus on something else. So I just completely forgot how to tie my shoe.
Okay, that makes sense why you got the tieless on clouds.
Yep.
I know you're getting some money because you're wearing on clouds. Okay.
I still do bunny ears to this day.
Okay. What are some other things you feel like you had to forget to be able to retain all this information?
I would say that there's not many things, but just being able to go to different conferences and going to these different business meetings, just being able to learn all this information and retain it and keep different notes. And I'm able to regurgitate information as soon as I get it.
Wow. I feel like that's a blessing in itself right there. You got a lot of different superpowers, Caden, and I'm starting to learn that about you. Do you spend a lot of time on social media?
Yes, I do. I post pretty much daily.
Oh, wow, you post daily. I can't even post daily. You a superhero for real.
Thank you.
Being on social media, one challenge that I face is, again, we're in that age of information. There's like so much information being plastered on us, right? And as a content creator, me posting, not necessarily daily, but every 2 days, right? It's hard for me to post and get right off the app. I'm going to fall subject to some type of scrolling and stuff like that, and we can get distracted. What are some ways that you do? Let me ask first. Do you find yourself getting distracted a lot of times on social media?
I do a lot of times.
Okay, all right. I'm about to say, okay, you are human. Good. How do you catch yourself and get back on track? And not let it disrupt your days? Because I feel like, especially if I'm facing this as an adult, I can only imagine how many of your peers and kids your age are spending hours on social media, not able to get anything done. But you're still pretty successful. So how are you able to get things done?
I just know that I have something to do and that I can't just spend my entire life just scrolling. And I have a list that I do daily. So I make sure that I keep on track by continue to complete my list.
Let's talk about the list. So you're utilizing a to-do list. It sounds like. Where do you keep your to-do list? Is it in a notebook, on your phone? Where are you using it?
It's on my phone in my notes.
Okay. Oh, I got this. Okay. In your phone on your notes tab. So what are you how often do you check this list? Are you like every night creating the list? Tell me about your process. What is your thought process behind the list, how you execute the list, and how you move forward with your days?
So I created the list. I wake up at 8:30 and then I handle my hygiene stuff like brushing my teeth, washing my face, and then I eat breakfast. I do some reading and then I express what I read. So if it's writing it down or telling it to someone like my parents, and then I will maybe read some more after. And I just will do in different seminars, different business meetings and conferences. So different events that I'm able to go to, which also helps me learn, which I also add to my schedule. And then I eat lunch and I'm free for the rest of the day.
Nice. Around what time are you free for the rest of the day?
Maybe around 12 or 1.
Wow, you getting all this done in like 4 or 5 hours.
Yes.
You a man on a mission for sure. That's a lot that you just executed. You said that after you read, you express what you read. Why do you do that?
So that I know that I actually retained it. So when I read, I know that sometimes I can forget some things or get off track, which is why I know that I have to express it so then I don't forget it.
Y'all, if I was done with this interview, I would drop my mic and his. Cause like what you just said there, Caden, is so powerful. Like for you to incorporate in your daily routine, to read information and then to express, like you're the first person that I heard actually incorporating the routine of expressing what you read. But I don't want to be the preacher. I want you to tell our listeners why that is so important again.
So that you're able to know that you're retaining the information when you see that you're actually putting it back out, and when you're telling it to someone or writing it down and you're able to remember it, that's how you know that you really retained it.
Nice. Out of writing it down or telling it to your parents, which method is your favorite method and why?
I would say probably telling it to my parents because they're able to give feedback and ask questions about what I read. But when it's just me, I'm just typing it down myself and I may forget a few things.
Man, I was going to say the same thing. You read my mind. That is like every time you talk, Caden, I just get more and more impressed with you and your routine. And I want to touch on the routine a little bit more because I think that's something that a lot of us have shied away from. Talk about the power of your daily routine and how much that has impacted your mornings and how much it has made your afternoons so much easier.
That has impacted me so much because when you do things as a kid when you're younger, you remember them as an adult, and it's something that you continue to do when you grow up. So when you're reading at a young age, then you'll continue to read the older that you get. So I would say just that's one of the biggest things.
Wow, that's interesting. And I think that was very well put. I want to read a this is going back to the financial literacy for a bit, and I want to read a stat to you. And that is about credit card debt and student loan debt. You got two different types of debt because Americans owe, I'm reading, over $1.3 trillion in credit card debt as of 2023. Wow. And that's 60% of adults with credit card debt in the past year, right? And then for the student loan debt, the U.S. has reached approximately about $1.7 trillion, affecting over 44 million borrowers, right? So we got 44 million people that are affected, at least with student loan debt. How, from your experience, can financial literacy play a role in reducing personal and student debt, or just being able to better manage debt as consumers?
I would say that once you learn about financial literacy at an earlier age, you're able to learn how to manage your money before that time. And one thing that I found is that college isn't for everyone, because a lot of times parents try to just push college on every kid when it may not be something that they're interested in. And they may want to do other things. They may want to own a business like me. They may want to join the military. So there's different things that you can do instead of just going to college. Because so many times people just always think since I graduated high school at 13 that I just love school and I'm going to go to some big college. But I actually just wanted to get done with school. I wanted to be done with it forever. But I still get to learn by going to these conferences and joining seminars and going to different programs.
Y'all heard how he just casually dropped that he finished high school at 13, right? I heard it too. And I wanted to make sure I heard it right, but I love that you said that you wanted to be done with school, but I still get to learn, because I think a lot of people misappropriately tie school with the only form of learning. They think if you're not in school, you're not learning something. And you pretty much are saying that there's so many other forms of you learning. Like, I'm sure you watch a lot of content on YouTube, but you also said you go to seminars. Shoot, sitting in your dad's business meetings is you learning something.
Yes.
So now at 14 years old, you are currently done with school, in the traditional sense.
Yes, I am. And I knew that I wanted to do this because when I was in school, I kind of felt trapped, like I was in a place that I didn't belong, like a lion in a zoo, like a bird in a cage, knowing that I had so many more things to do. Instead of just being stuck in a school building for 8 hours, I could be doing something much better, impacting the world, helping other kids. So that's when I decided to join an accredited program where I was able to do school at my own pace. So I had done every type of school: public, private, virtual, homeschool. So I saw that I wanted to finish school so that I can reinvest my time back into other kids and go back into other schools.
Man, Caden, you are living proof that if I do a similar, if me and my wife do a similar job that your parents did, and just including our son in the stuff and the conversations that we're already having as adults, that if my son does not need to go to college, I can fully trust that he is equipped and skilled with the information to where he doesn't need to take on that debt if he doesn't need to, right?
Yes.
And I love how you mentioned that you felt trapped in these different school environments. And do you know why you felt trapped like that?
I just kind of felt like I didn't belong there and that I was different and there was something else I could be doing.
But do you know why? Do you know why you were different?
I don't. One thing my parents always say is that I'm different from others, but I still don't know what makes me different from others. It's just the feeling that I have.
Man, I'm gonna say this, Caden. And I wanted to, and I phrased it like that because I wanted to share this message with the audience too. Because one thing that makes you different from others is that you are entrepreneurial spirited, right? And the school system, in higher education, primary education, is not set up for entrepreneurial spirit individuals, which is why you felt trapped, right? Because they're teaching us how to go through life and being employees, and to not have to think for ourselves, but to follow a curriculum or to follow a order of process or to follow a handbook. And so that's why you felt different, because you're in this institution that is trying to force you to be somebody that you're not, which is somebody who doesn't think for themselves. So, man, again, I want to just acknowledge the gift that you have, like the many gifts that you have, the gifts that God instilled in you and the gift that God blessed you with, which was your parents. Because, like, for real, it's not too many individuals that can think at the level that you're thinking and then get it out of your head and put it on the paper and to actualize it into, business and the things that you're doing now.
Yes.
Okay, and as we are wrapping things up, I want you to tell us a little bit about your vision for the future. Like, where do you see yourself taking this now after all the things you've done in a short amount of time, the last 3 years? Where do you see the next 5 years going for you and in the bus and everything else that you have going on?
I see myself teaching over 500,000 kids about financial literacy, growing my curriculum to where it's a K through 12 curriculum instead of just a middle school one, and having my curriculum all over the country, because currently it's just in the United States, but having it all over the world, and just having people all around the world knowing about financial literacy, because once we learn about financial literacy, we can get all of the other problems out of the way.
I definitely see that for you. And it's like, at the rate that you're going, 5 years you might have already crushed that goal. You might crush that in the next year or two at the rate that you're going. But Caden, I truly appreciate you just being so open to the conversation. Again, joining me on your Saturday. I know you could have been doing so many other things, especially, since you ain't in school. Like, you could be traveling right now. And you just came back from Camden, right? recently?
A few months ago, yes.
And tell us about that experience. You were kind of talking at the Rutgers University.
Yes, I was. It was an awesome experience getting to speak to the college students and knowing that I was able to make an impact on people that were older than me. And after that, I was able to speak at the White House also. I spoke at the Prudential Emerging Visionaries, which they picked the top 25 kids in the world that are doing great things, top 25 in the country and top 30 worldwide. So it was awesome knowing that I was a part of that. And I was one of the 5 grand prize winners where I was able to walk away with $15,000 to reinvest back into my business.
Right. I saw that you were a winner of that award. Congratulations on that too.
Thank you.
Are you familiar with imposter syndrome? Well, have you ever, because you just said you were at Rutgers University talking to a bunch of college students as a 14-year-old. Have you, maybe not now because you're super confident and I can hear your confidence when you talk, but have you ever dealt with the imposter syndrome, like feeling like you don't belong here or like you may, not have anything to offer others? Have you ever felt like that or dealt with those emotions?
I would say I have it. And one reason I would definitely say I have it is because of my dad. Because one thing he always told me my entire life is that you're the stuff, but don't think that you're better than anyone.
That's great advice. That's advice I would give everybody. Everybody needs that because some people really do think they are the stuff, but they think they more than everybody else, right? Yeah. Man, shout out to Pops. Shout out to Pops instilling that in you. And shout out to you again. Shout out to Mom. Shout out to everybody who has just kind of like poured into you. Because I can tell you got a lot of love. You got a lot of love growing up. Yeah. And that's just what we need more, for our youth. So I appreciate you, Caden, for coming down here. Tell our listeners a little bit more about where they can find you and what other news that you want to share with them on things that you have coming up.
Well, you can find me on my Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, all at Caden Teaches, and my website, cadenteaches.com. And I have so many things going on. I'll be speaking at St. Petersburg soon. I'll be actually speaking for Forbes as well. So I have a ton of things that are coming up. And one thing that I want to leave you guys with is that you will have haters in your life and that you just have to overcome them because people are just like weeds. Weeds are pretty much trying to suffocate the good plants and the good grass, but you have to overcome them because weeds are weak. You can just pull them up by the root with the tiniest pull and they're gone. So just making sure that you overcome the haters. So that's one of the biggest things.
Hey man, step on them haters like you step on those weeds. That was a great way to indicate. And I appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate our listeners for tuning in every single Monday. Join us for new episodes. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you are new to the channel, and comment what was your favorite part about this episode so that we know to continue, bringing this information to you. And man, I hope y'all get a chance to bring y'all kids and for y'all to check out that mobile bus because I seen some videos and it is amazing. And I can't wait till Lil Kai can understand what he looking at so I could bring him by that bus. Man, shout out to y'all and shout out to you, Caden, again. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show. We out.
And remember, if Caden can, you can too.
Let's get it.